Welcome to the Strongman Say podcast with our very first guest, future world's strongest man, Mitch Hooper. And of course, thank you.
Big call.
Oh, I've heard you say it plenty of times. And of course, our regular host with the most, Mr. Strength Zenley Shaw. Congratulations on your weekend win.
Thank you.
AS International. How'd you enjoy the competition? Highlights for you, thoughts, feelings on the weekend?
You know, it was akin to the Arnold UK, where all in all, good show. A little bit too much like duck where the feet are like scrambling underneath. And as athletes, we see a bit of it. But I think for the people there, it was really good. There was a couple of hiccups on the live stream. But nothing too major, and it's definitely something to build off. So hopefully Mason keeps the ball rolling on that, and it keeps incentivizing the pro guys to come out and inspire people in the country to get into the sport. Yeah,
it would have been obviously there was a lot of pullouts, right? Like that was the hard thing. A lot of international guys pulling out because for you. You had a stellar weekend, I guess, but, you know, your post said good, not great, but still managed to take out most of the events, you know.
Yeah, and good, not great in terms of I did everything I had to do.
Yes. And
I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to do more. But obviously that quality of competition is not going to win the Arnold or anything like that.
Yes.
But, yeah, it's a tough thing that's starting in the sport where Martins Licis takes a year off because he's hurt or wants to get his body right. Yeah, I get that. Alexi goes, I want a bit of a break. He doesn't last very long taking a break, but yeah, I get that. You compete a lot. But then you start getting other guys being super selective, and you can't have your cake and eat it too, where I want more prize money, I want the sport to grow, but I'm going to compete twice a year, and I want to make a full-time income in strongman, but I don't want to do seminars, and but I don't want to do coaching, but I don't want to compete often. And it really stitches people like Mason up. And I think you need to have your own business until you fully realize how bad that stitch up can be.
Yeah, I don't think people understand the reality of someone putting their neck out for you guys and for all of us. It's not just for you guys to come bring you over and get you paid, but also for us in Australia, getting the pro guys in, getting that exposure, getting the people that we follow into competitions for us. I don't think people understand what a big commitment that is, both financially and logistically too.
Yeah, and he put up money for all the amateurs as well. Every amateur winner got $3,000.
Yeah,
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, 3, 2,
3, 1, 5, 5.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So
$5,000 per weight class.
Yeah. That's and there's a lot of weight classes, and he made it equal for both genders, which there's a nice feeling to it, but there's an economic reality to that makes it really challenging. And yeah, he's done more for the sport in this country than anyone that I know of, and I haven't been around that long.
I agree.
But for as much, I hear a lot of heat around Mason, and I never let any of it fly. Because I mean, man, he's trying so hard.
Yeah, look, it's like anything. When you are doing something above and beyond what's done before, and like people are going to say stuff because they're not the people doing it, right? Everyone from the couch, and we sit here on our couch.
I was going to say we do that.
we do that. We do exactly this. We coach from the couch, right? It's like, it's easy to say like that something could be done better, or something, you know, we would like to see it done this way, or something will work better. But until you're the person that's actually doing it, you can say whatever the fuck you want, but you can just sit the fuck down. Do you know what I mean?
No, we've happily admitted that though and gone, in hindsight, it's really easy. And I've got all these ideas of this is how I'd do it, but it would probably crash and burn. Yeah. And I'm aware of that. Like,
the first ones to admit
I don't know better.
Yeah. But it's the same. Like it's really exciting to be a part of something that's going to grow.
Yeah.
And all you look for is, does it get better next year, next time it's on? And you know what? The men's show was I think it was probably a bit disappointing for spectators, because I think it was clear that I wasn't putting in a full effort the whole time. I think the pullouts were disappointing, because you'd love to see Australia's strongest go against some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
But the women's show, those women showed out.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
It's a common theme going around here at the moment, where the women steal the show though, right? Like they are fierce and super competitive, right?
Yeah.
Like, so the big thing I think with competition, and we saw that with the amateurs this weekend too, which was rad, is close competition makes a sport. It doesn't matter what level you're at. If it's nail-biting competition, it's fun to watch.
The highlight of the whole weekend was those two, the block carry for the
man.
for anyone who didn't see that, who were the two girls?
Katie and Nicole.
And Nicole was the blonde one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So Nicole was slightly ahead virtually the whole time, and she had on this phenomenal game face. And the other girl,
Katie.
Yeah.
she looked in pain from about the first lap. You're like,
Oh.
okay, this is not gonna. It's gonna be short.
Yeah.
They must have gone 75 meters and sort of back and forth a couple of times. It finishes with it was Nicole who passed out.
Yeah.
She passes out, hits her head on the stone. The other girl wins by like a meter and falls over exhausted. That was so exciting.
So Nicole counted the laps. Apparently 180.
180 meters.
Apparently it was like 5-6 minutes non-stop.
It was a long time. It just shows those
Yeah.
girls would die to win that competition.
And they weren't weight class girls. They're heavy, big girls.
Yeah.
Like that's
open weight. Yeah. Sure. It's a long way. Caveat. Lee actually coaches both of them. So, so he was watching it like, oh my God.
Right. Yeah.
just yelling at both of them. One of them stops. I'm like, keep fucking going. The next one stops. I'm like, don't you stop. I'm like, whoever wins, wins.
Yeah.
I can't change that.
Could you have picked that?
Who was going to win?
Yeah.
Even on the day, not really. Because they've both got different strengths and weaknesses.
But the
And,
block carry itself.
to who was going to win.
Yeah.
You would think that it would favor a bigger person or a heavier person or someone with like more reach.
Yeah. Until they take it 180 meters, I guess.
Yeah. But I also know what Nick's like, and she will carry something until she passes out.
Yeah.
So it's somebody else said about the tiebreaker and being like, oh, well, won't that favor somebody or not? But it's light enough and it's a grid event.
Yeah.
It favors who wants it more.
Yeah.
And it favors who's willing to like hurt more.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good tiebreaker event compared to doing stones again, a deadlift, and
Or whose
overhead.
body gives out. Because,
Yeah,
I mean,
just
I
whose
think they
body
both
gives
wanted
out.
it the same. I think
Yeah,
one,
that was
one person
mental.
just passed out.
Yeah.
That was mental.
So I think in terms of like a fair deciding tiebreaker,
Yeah.
it's a good one
It was exciting.
because whoever wins is gonna have to fucking hurt for it.
Yeah.
It's not an easy win.
Yeah. Much better than countback anyway.
Oh, much
Well,
more
the
fun.
countback was even. That's why.
That's why.
Oh.
It went to countback and it was equal first, equal seconds, equal thirds. So they
that's
had
awesome.
they had that at Vic Strongest.
Right.
Those two competed at Vic Strongest, and they both won an event. They both came second, and it came down to the last event.
Right.
So
They've been back and forth for a bit.
Wow.
yeah,
But yeah, competition makes it, right? So
Yeah.
it would be interesting to see. I mean, we were talking about this before with the men anyway, especially in the pro show, back when the Arnold was on. And we had the Arnold Pro Show, and it was, you know, Eddie Hall, Thor, those guys were coming out.
Yeah.
We had some really big names sort of come out. And much like the weekend, you know, like this is an opportunity to compete against a potential future world's strongest man.
I've never said that I'm going to win, by the way. I've literally never said
I
that.
can pull up like 6 interviews where I reckon you said yes.
surely.
I guarantee you. I guarantee
I
you.
reckon
I've
you
never
start
said
saying
it.
it.
I swear you said like within 4 or 5 years.
I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll always say I could.
Yeah,
No,
you
no,
could.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
you said
yeah,
you
okay.
will.
No. I'm never that definite on winning anything.
501 deadlift.
I'll find it.
That was marketing.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we
I've
go.
never been that definite on anything.
That was just marketing. Let's be honest. You got to play the game.
You do have to.
And now Tom's doing it. Tom Stoltman's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? No, he's not known for if he gets anywhere close.
Yeah, I
everyone will be
agree.
shocked.
Yeah,
He's
100%.
Doing some of his sets with like 320, and I'm like, that's a long way off 500.
Yeah.
I was saying that like when the Arnold's was on though, the Australian guys would have, like we were saying this before the podcast, we we're having a chat about it. The Australian guys would have lost a limb to compete
Yeah,
against
so
those
Giants
pro guys.
Live 2012 had Mike Jenkins, like Nick Best, Eddie Hall when he was super fresh.
Yeah.
So Eddie Hall back when he was super inconsistent and would just send it and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Every top Australian guy was there, and if they weren't, they probably would have killed the other guy to get there.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
they would not have missed that opportunity.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I don't know if it's social media. I don't know if you see what everybody else lifts on social media and you go, oh, I can't beat that, so maybe I won't compete with
Or
them.
whether you don't feel like you need the audience. Do you reckon that's a thing? Like whether
Yeah, you get enough hype and likes and shares.
you don't
through
need to be in
socials.
those competitions.
No, I think it's the scare of losing, to be honest. And that's why I put all of my top lifts, all the weights, everything.
Yeah.
Because I want people to see.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I want them to
Yeah.
know. But yeah, I think that's what it is because like it's really bad in Australia. I haven't seen it and I haven't seen it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing, right? To put yourself out there. And like this weekend for me would have been the first time, maybe Glasgow, the show I won in Glasgow. But this weekend was certainly the first time where I rocked up. And if I didn't win, people would be talking a lot.
Yeah.
About like, you're not in shape, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, sure.
And they're also very random events too.
Yeah.
They're events that
hard
other
to
people
gauge.
could come in and take points.
And I had a lot of apprehension because obviously I'm not in season, I'm not in peak form, there's a lot of things that will improve from now until I actually start. And it's a hard thing to do. But to me, it's the whole strongman experience is as much about developing personally as it is showing that you're the strongest. Yeah. I don't think it really matters if you're the strongest. I think it's really valuable if I do come and lose and like, okay, cop it. How do you
sure. Cop that on the chin.
Yeah, and you carry that through the rest of your life, and that's probably going to be more return than any win.
Yeah, you learn from your losers more than you learn from your wins.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a cliche saying.
100%.
But also, like you were saying, if you're trying to take it to the next level, if you're trying to do what you're doing, right, which is be on the competitive circuit, be on the pro circuit, you're not going to win all those comps.
No.
Because there's a whole bunch of great guys. But if you want to continue to get the opportunities, if you want to get granted the opportunity to compete at those competitions at all, you have to compete in them to be seen, right? Like at the end of the day, that's the biggest factor is actually just doing them and showing up.
And you wonder, let's say Jordan Osborne competed, and let's say he did really well and beat me. How do you think that changes his odds to get to World's Strongest Man this year?
Hugely. Yeah, as an example, for sure, right?
Like, what's the downside, really?
Yeah, even on an event. Right. And there's probably a whole bunch of other guys that would be very similar that, you know, like pulled out, or guys that jumped in and did get seen and didn't do great.
Yeah.
Could do a lot better, but actually did get great exposure and got seen competing in a pro show against those guys.
And
suddenly the name
Aiden would have done well.
Pardon?
Aiden,
Kanini,
not bad events like Aiden.
Yeah. Is he doing strongman still?
Yeah, he's in quite good form too. He's looking pretty strong.
Lost quite a bit of weight and then he gained it back for Vix. But yeah, he qualified for pro show as well.
And he pulled up. Yeah.
Yep.
How good.
How good.
It could have been an awesome show.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are under the illusion that, you know, I'm going to be stronger next year. And next year I'll win. Yeah. Okay. It could be true. If everything goes well, it could be true. But you also don't know if really basic life stuff gets in the way. Like your job changes, you can't train anymore, or you don't like the sport anymore, or you get hurt. So I got really good advice when I was maybe 17 and I was going into I lost about 100 pounds to go into a bodybuilding show. And I said to the guy who's coaching me into it, I said, I think let's get lean, see how it looks, build, and then do it next year. And he's like, one day you just won't be able to do it. Like life's going to get in the way.
Yeah.
And so go be shit, but just go do it.
Yeah, that's
and
a good advice.
That's probably the most proud thing I've ever done because it's just such a grind. It's so hard. And I came last.
Yeah.
But I'm like, mentally, that was the toughest thing.
We've joked about that before where like at some point in your life, you're going to be the strongest that you've ever been.
Yeah.
And you won't know it.
Yeah.
You'll know it 5 years later when you can't get back to that.
I'm
you keep dwindling. Getting to that age.
But you know, you have to make the most of it in the meantime.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, that's just sort of what life is about. Like, we could die.
Take it as it comes and take everything as it comes.
One day you're going to die. And I think if I died tomorrow, I could pretty happily say I've done more with my life than a lot of people.
Yeah, sure.
In terms of experiences and meeting people and taking opportunities and whatnot. And the more of those you pass up, the less there's going to be in the future.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Opportunities or taking opportunities begets more opportunities, right? Like to get opportunities or get more opportunities, you have to take the ones in front of you, and then the doors keep opening. If you keep closing the doors, they just stop coming eventually.
Yeah, if you don't take the opportunity, you're 100% guaranteed to get nothing from it.
Yes.
Nothing's coming from that.
Go figure, yeah.
So even if it's a low chance.
My general attitude towards like the whole pro thing, and obviously I've done well enough that I didn't have to make a scene of myself or anything, but there's two things over the whole year that were very important to me. And one was accept every invite and, well, every reasonable invite.
Yeah.
Not Ragnarok. God bless him.
Yeah.
And two is wherever you go, just make sure people know your name.
Yeah.
However, whatever, just make sure that you're memorable in some way.
Yeah.
And if you do those two things, then doors open in pro strongman. And it's really not hard. You know, I got the advice that you have to have an angle and you have to have a character, almost like a WWE. That's what I was told. And I sort of thought, like, what could my thing be? And I literally sat and brainstormed after I made the decision that I was trying to go for it. I think at this stage I was invited to World Deadlift Champs, but not to Worlds yet. And I really couldn't come up with anything. So I made my basically personal brand just who I hope to be as a person.
Yeah.
That you put that out there enough, and now that it's like, that's your thing. And we're all unique enough that you have a thing if you just put yourself out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You grabbed every opportunity when there weren't comps.
Yeah.
You did really good at that.
Yeah.
Claim big lifts, talk a big game, social media was high.
Yeah.
Came here, claimed records.
Secured record.
Yeah.
Secure.
Which is a whole nother thing. But like in terms of marketing and like pushing yourself, like you did everything possible to get your name into World's Strongest Man and to get there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of back-end work to that as well. Like,
Well, then there's like Julian and promoters and other people along the way.
If you look at strongman, you look at the opportunities and how it's disproportionately afforded to some people. You can look at that and bitch about it and go like, well, we should have an international ranking system, blah, blah. Or you look at that and go, I can get places I don't belong.
Yeah, of course.
You play the game.
That was my attitude.
I think it's different. You do belong.
Yes, but no one knew that.
Until you do it.
Yeah, 100%. But there's a lot of people that we would look at the World's Strongest Man stage and you would think like, you probably don't belong. Do you know what I mean? Like you probably aren't the strongest. And I think Australia, and we'll go back to, I mean, if you go back to like using Australia, I'm not saying you used Australia, but you used us a little bit. Do you feel used?
A little bit.
Like, did you make us breakfast
when you left?
I definitely did you just sneak out the back door?
Didn't get wined and dined.
Left it. No. Do you know what? I said this the other day. If not for sort of I assume pretty much everyone here who listens to this is in Australia.
Yeah. Oh, no, actually.
But handfuls everywhere.
Yeah,
right.
everywhere.
There's an Australian thing where Australians don't like people doing well, just generally. If anyone does too well,
we like ourselves doing well. Yeah.
No, but even still, like even an Australian that does well, it's sort of like, I'm like, how is Keith Urban not super popular here? Like,
Too commercial.
Yeah, like,
we do that with products too. Like they make a local beer here.
Yeah,
everywhere else drinks it, but here, everyone's like, nah.
So anyway, when I was a strongman here, I got some attention internationally, and I wanted to represent Australia in a way. Not because I'm framing myself as Australian. I don't see that as better than Canadian. I see it much the same. But because that's the system that I came up in, and if there's a kickback or a positive outcome, it would be nice for it to be Australian. If there wasn't that pushback, I would have competed representing Australia at World's Strongest Man as a nod to say, like, thank you for getting me.
Do you think you would have been able to?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is we fucked it for ourselves.
Yes.
By giving you shit.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking because I think it would have been. And Coco's the exact same way.
Yeah.
Like he was outright asked to represent France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if he was more patriotic and he didn't get shit for being French and you're not from here, blah blah blah, maybe he would have.
Yeah.
And he would have had two. You would have had two Australians at.
Yeah, I mean Coco's.
Would he have been allowed though?
Yeah.
Coco.
Like would Colin and that have been like okay.
To the best of my knowledge, he got an outright invite before they had that conversation.
So because Gabe Pena had the same thing with Mexico, didn't he? Representing Mexico versus America.
Yeah, I've never heard of an actual ultimatum, but it certainly works in your favor.
Yeah,
I mean, we were talking with about Fatty, and he came third this weekend, and it works really strongly in his favor that can represent Lebanon and Egypt.
Yeah,
and that's. You know, I actually sort of agree with it, to be honest, when it comes to World's Strongest Man.
Diversity.
Yeah, because we have the best competitions, right? And we have the most competitive, and that's the Arnold and that's the Rogue. And Rogue runs both of them. It's the same guys. Yeah. But then we get the diversity in World's Strongest Man.
Yeah, and I think that what we're talking about in terms of, I see Australia, and this is like, let's say, talking about Fatty and Coco, and it's a little bit hard for us in Australia, I think, like when you look at it like that, because we're a small pond, where if you're a big fish in a small pond, it's easy to get noticed, and then we see that everyone fucks off and represents other countries or under other flags, right? Yeah. That's a bit disheartening in terms of like, cool, like you come over here, or like not you come over here. you lived here for a while.
I came over here at some stage.
Yeah, I came over at some stage for something. But like people who are even living here and stuff like that, you're like, all right, where's the door? Yeah, people who are living here, they come up and they get like they're strong here and they come through our system and they compete as an Australian strongman or do Australia's Strongest Man and take records or whatever the person's doing, right? Yeah. Because we're a small pond, it's easy to get noticed and like a World's Strongest Man thing. It's like you stand out more because it's easy to stand out as a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
And then we see guys go overseas. And it happens in weight classes too.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We see guys go to OSG and stuff like that. And it's like there's one flag there, but there's 4 guys from Australia.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting. It's not that it's right or wrong. Like we've talked about this and it's like, I don't know what I would do. Do you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, whether I would...
Well, we don't have the choice.
Yeah, I was going to say...
We don't, no,
so we don't get it.
We don't have the choice, right? Yeah. Like I'm an Australian and I'd represent the flag. But if I didn't and I was like... I mean, realistically, if they're like, hey, can you come to World's Strongest Man? We just want you to represent fucking Uruguay. I'd be like... I'm from there.
Yeah.
I said that to everybody. I'd be like, I'd represent whoever I need to.
You know what I mean? 100%. So it's a tricky thing because we sit back here in our couches and be like, oh, well, you should fucking represent Australia. But like at the end of the day, it's the same thing.
But it goes.
Well, mine's the opposite. This is the only country that I've noticed that just claim people.
Yeah, and we do claim people.
Like someone's in America and then someone does well. They don't go, yeah, we'll claim him as American. They just go, no, you're not American. Yeah. We do that with everyone. If someone's touched this soil, like Kiwis do anything good, but if they live here, they're like, oh yeah, we'll claim him. He's one of us.
But it was the opposite with me.
I think it was the same at the start.
It was the same at the start until you could take Australia's Strongest Man and until you could take records.
We'll claim Mitch, and then you held a Canadian flag, and everyone's like, oh, fuck that guy. Nah, a lot of people still love you.
Yeah,
but we just claim people, and then when they don't claim us back, everyone seems to get upset.
I wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care if people don't. I don't claim people. It's like we just need to get better.
Yeah, and
we have good people that are up and coming that have potential.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we get behind those? Why can't we get behind underdogs?
Well, because they were on their couch this weekend.
Yeah, because they didn't fucking show up.
Look, I tried to back them up. I tried to help them. Yeah. I'm here for them.
Yeah. A brief history. All right, so we're talking about, obviously, for those, I'm sure many of you know that like Mitch actually started his strongman journey in Australia and Sydney while over here studying and stuff. Take us from the start. So obviously, you were a good athlete before even, like you've got a history of being quite an athlete.
Football, marathon.
The whole deal.
Golf.
Yeah, golf.
Yeah.
I think golf.
My ceiling was probably the highest in golf.
Yeah.
Well, other than strongman.
Do you know that there's more money in golf than strongman?
Yeah, but if it was about the money, I'd do very different things.
Yes.
But, I think, like we were talking, I think you can make a really, really good living in anything.
Yes.
And so long as you go about it the right way. And I'm not looking for a free meal ticket on like you win one tournament and you can retire. Like how happy would you really be in that circumstance?
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, look, I played pretty much every sport that you could imagine, like at a competitive level: golf, baseball, basketball, volleyball, swimming. I was just keen to give everything a crack and
everything for tall people.
What sports for short people?
There's none. Yeah. There's none.
Weight class sports.
Being a jockey or something.
Yeah, being a jockey.
Gymnast. Yeah, something like that. Not much.
But that was more. It wasn't because I was super competitive and wanted to win everything. In fact, like there's a lot of sports that I didn't like. American football being the peak of that. And I remember my last game in high school, American football. I'm driving there with my mom, and I say to her, I hope I play really well today, and I hope we lose, because then I won't have to play football again this year. And that's pretty much what happened.
That's how I felt about cricket as a kid.
Yeah.
And
when's the season over?
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the reason we lost, but I was also like, I'm done with it. And other people are crying and really couldn't handle it. And I'm like, well, that's just how I treated sport growing up. And it was more of a social thing than it was anything. Like I had a harder time fitting in some ways growing up. And then I played a little bit of American football in college, hated it, so I didn't go that far.
Yeah.
Quit after a season, which was really tough because I could have gone pro in Canada. I wasn't good enough to go to the NFL. And, you know, that would have been cool. My dad would have been really proud of that. And so that was a bit of a pill to swallow. Then, yeah, look for other things to do. Then I did bodybuilding because I gained a bunch of weight. And I was like, I looked horrendous. Let's fix this up. I wanted to keep eating a lot, so then I ran marathons. And it's mostly tied back to my job I exercise people with injuries and chronic conditions. Yeah. And I think if you're asking someone who's out of shape to run, you had better push yourself aerobically in some capacity. And the same thing with strength. And strength turned into just the next thing that I was going to try to relate to people. And, you know, after strongman, there's going to be the next thing. But I moved to Sydney and found Adonis. They did powerlifting.
And you moved to Sydney for study.
School. Yeah,
right?
for study.
So you were studying exercise physiology.
That's right. So I did my master's at the Uni of Sydney. At the time, I had no direction. I was looking for a gym. Yeah. And I came across that. The guys powerlifting, jumped into powerlifting. Powerlifting is really, really boring. So that didn't last all that long. I got egged into doing strongman, which, funny enough, my best mate from back home, about five years before I started strongman, he was like, you have to do strongman. Like, everything about you says you should do strongman. And I talked to my girlfriend at the time, and she's like, no, I don't want you getting big and fat and all the stuff you have to do to be a strongman, eating and blah, blah, blah. So I didn't do it then. And then full circle, it kicked off. First comp was Arnold qualifier. I ended up winning that. That got canceled. Then a couple of local shows, a couple of state shows. Then big lifts during COVID, and that was enough. Really lucky to get invited to World's Strongest Man. Yeah, you know, I was a fraction away from quitting the sport.
Well, you did amazingly at capitalizing on a time where there was no comps to get noticed and do those big lifts. You managed to get noticed, and
was Logstone and Dead?
Longstone,
Iron Rev,
deadlift, 475 dead or something like that.
At that one, I did 435.
Okay,
Log was bad. Like, log might have been 160, and then stone I did 220.
Okay,
so like pretty solid. At the time though, I didn't really know that internationally that would start to gain any traction.
Yeah.
Then I did the static monsters and did 485 dead and 185 log. Basically got the 200 log. I pulled that back. Do you guys remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, yeah.
Like shit just happens all the time in strongman.
Yeah.
If I was giving myself advice, like, no, you don't pull it back. Then the 475 dead, and then I was moving back to Canada, and there's no strongman gym there, no strongman community. I was leaving my community, so I was sort of in mind like maybe I shut down the coaching business. I'm opening a clinic back in my hometown. Maybe I just move on to the next sport because it's going to be an uphill battle to keep it going. And then World's Strongest Man invite came along, so of course you're going to take that opportunity.
Yeah,
it all just went from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gym looked like you had a yoke in the corner. Yeah. With like a little bit of a turf track, and you were just like the menace in the gym that.
Yeah. So it's
amongst the bodybuilders.
Yeah. Just push pressing like out of a rack with like steel plates that like you don't want to drop on the ground.
Yeah. So that's why at World's Strongest Man, that's why I was the only person not to put it on my back. Because I didn't have anywhere to drop it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can say whatever you want about like find a place to do it. But at that stage, I
didn't want to risk it on the day, or just couldn't like find a comfortable spot.
No, I never practiced it at the gym.
Yeah.
So if you never practice it, you're not going to just give a rip at 500 pounds. So the good thing about the gym though is they've supported me so much, and it works well for them. But now I've got all standard submit kit actually back in Canada. Like I could open a full gym. I just need to find the time. And the space, but I've got a yoke there, good yoke. They built me a stone setup, and I got my stones there. Cool. Monster dumbbell, log. I'm pretty well set up to do whatever. They're building fingers for me right now.
Great.
Amazing. To be able to practice that. So, I've made the most out of what it is, but it's all really serendipitous, and it very quickly could have gone. If I didn't get invited to Worlds or the World Deadlift Champ, I'd be a very bad triathlon competitor right now.
Yeah. Well, what would be the next thing? Like Canada's Strongest Man, and then try to build your way back through that.
I literally would have had to go to like a local show to qualify for provincials, and it's actually funny. Like, I think I'd been invited to World's Strongest Man at this stage, and so I was like, okay, like we're doing this, and Maxime Boudreau was coming down to do a seminar close to me, and he would have had to drive through my town to get to that seminar. So I DM'd him on Instagram. It's like, hey, if you want to get a session in together, you're literally going to drive past me. And like it'd be good to get together, learn a bit off each other, whatnot. Then I get a DM from the gym that he was doing the seminar at, and they DM me saying, hey, Max said you might be interested in coming to his seminar.
That's a low blow.
Yeah, it was tough because coming from Australia, where I sort of got to the stage where any big city that I was in, I could go to someone's gym. I know people.
Yeah, for sure.
And then going to like,
Yeah, like you're still unknown across the sea.
Literally.
Yeah. Who are you? Oh, you're an Instagram lifter.
That's how we all feel when we go over international comps.
Yeah. Dude, I got the funniest comments on a YouTube video a couple of days ago, YouTube short. And it was a video I posted a couple of months ago. I don't know, it was like a 500-pound push press or something. And the guy goes, this dude's been posting fake shit for years. Let's get him in a real strongman comp and see how he does.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's my favorite comment.
None of this fake world's strongest man stuff. Go to a real one. Like a legit one.
Oh man, there's no end, is there?
Yeah. But then this year's been hectic. So world's strongest man, that was wild. I mean, we didn't find out the groups until like the day before, which in a perfect world, you could see your group and sort of prep based on who's in there. But I had on paper the hardest group by quite a margin, where you had Brian Shaw, Bobby Thompson, Konstantin Janasha, who were all in the finals last year. You have Mark Felix, who's a little bit past his prime, obviously, but Mark Felix is Mark Felix. And Gabriel Pena, who's a world's strongest man veteran, which actually took all the pressure off, to be honest with you. I mean, like you come fourth in that group.
100%. Had a great run.
And in hindsight, that group actually lined up perfectly for me because those guys are all super, super strong, but not the quickest.
Yeah. And it was a lighter. Like the heats were lighter.
Yeah. And you move quick and is what it is. So got through to the finals there and sort of shit the bed-ish. But I mean, I lost to Luke Stortman by a half a point. So I mean, but if I run that back, that was really hard for me to watch back because the number of points that I know that I lost on just super basic stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, what number of actual competition? Like when you get to World's Strongest Man, this is what I was going to say. You take your start in strongman, Adonis in Sydney, through to like moving to Canada, training the bodybuilding gym and stuff like that, and a World's Strongest Man invite. Yeah. How many actual full strongman competitions have you done by the time you land the World's Strongest Man?
4.
That's a quick fucking rise, right? Yeah. Like, what were the 4 competitions that you had done before? So, like your first, the Arnold's qualifier, right?
Arnold's qualifier.
So New South.
Then I had done Coal City Strongest.
Coal City Strongest.
Which was both an ACT and a New South Wales qualifier.
Yep.
Then ACTs and New South Wales.
Yeah. New South Wales Strongest, right?
Yeah.
So you did a state comp.
I did
so you did a state level comp and a regional comp, and then you went to World's Strongest Man.
Yeah.
You know, looking back on that, I see that I made some mistakes. I probably would have 2 in my 5th comp. It's just unfortunate that you did it in front of a live crowd and on cameras. Yeah.
But like seriously, I look back and I go, you should have come probably 2nd.
Mm-hmm. Would you have prepped differently for it, for Worlds?
Based on my life at the time, no.
Yeah.
No. I mean, you can't bank your whole life on doing well on a comp because you could get hurt at some stage. Yeah. You could not make the finals, and your business is hurting because you trained for the finals and you're not in the finals.
Because I remember you saying a lot of the events you hadn't trained.
Yeah.
And like hadn't prepped for. No. And they were probably the ones where you did lose those chunks of points.
Like a car deadlift. Yeah. I didn't know to put your feet further ahead. Yeah. And like my hamstrings got absolutely mashed. Yeah. And I still was 2 reps off winning the event. So I got, 3. I think I got 12 and the winner got 15. I mean, if I just changed my foot position, it's over.
You felt like there was a few more reps there.
There had to have been because everything was a stiff leg deadlift. My hamstrings were cramping up, and there was that. Then there's the power stairs where I was ahead of Max, who won the power stairs, and I had just put my implement too close to the stair in front, so I couldn't lift it up. But I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on. And so that was another like 4 points and 4 points in the deadlift. And of course we could all do that. Like you could all look back on a comp. But when it's as simple as like you just had no idea. Yeah. And it's something that basic.
Yeah.
there's a lot left on the table there.
Yeah. You see it all the time with
with
people doing stuff like that, and you're just like, one, there's such little errors, but then two, it's like, fuck, you must be strong to do that well.
Yeah.
And make such basic errors.
But
Like
you
you see
know-
people that are just dumb strong that still do so well.
Even at the pro level, even at the world level, there's these guys who can't understand that it's actually not about being the strongest.
Yeah.
Like I make most of my points up on being the most athletic and being strong enough.
Yeah, there's a lot that make very simple mistakes that have been competing for 10 years.
But it's almost like intentional. Like they would rather their identity be, I can lift the most, I'm the best log presser in the world. Like you see that in America a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can log press the most. Yeah, but you can't do anything else.
Yeah, which we've talked about a lot on the podcast too, which is like it's about winning competitions, not about winning a lift. You know,
Well,
I'd rather win world's strongest man than be the best log presser.
Bobby Thompson on stones. I got the wrong tacky out.
Mm-hmm.
You could go down here and ask anybody that's been doing it for 6 months, which tacky do you use when it's really hot?
Yeah.
And they will tell you.
Yeah.
You don't grab like grade 1, like light as hell Cerberus tacky,
Yeah,
and then
man.
slip on it. And like he's been around a long time.
I don't know what happened there.
That's apparently what it was. I think he
I
said something
know.
about it being sweaty or something, but
No,
then
no,
later on,
I know everything that's been said, but it's
yeah, how do you do it?
Doesn't add up.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
an unusual situation.
Mm.
Yeah. Because even like the first stone's like a 150.
Yeah.
Like if you're at World, you would think like you could probably do that without tacky.
Yeah.
And I understand if the tacky,
Yeah.
but I've actually in my entire career, the only issue I've ever had with tacky is that it comes off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even like I feel when it's not working well and you
Yeah.
sort of slip a bit, but even when you're slipping a bit, it doesn't go from tacky to oil. It
Yeah.
goes from super sticky tacky to a little bit of sticky tacky.
Yeah.
I don't follow.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm still at a loss for what happened there.
Yeah, I feel like most of you guys with a 150 stone, we could put baby oil on it and you would probably still crush it and pick it up
Yeah,
no matter
probably.
what. Like it should be that
That's a
easy.
YouTube video coming up.
Baby oil, baby oil.
Hey, Lee, how much do you weigh?
Not 150.
What baby oil are you?
I'll curl up in a ball.
But yeah, it's amazing, and it's strongman in life. Just how people get in their way so much. You know, I was coaching Fatty at the comp this weekend, and and a few others over the weekend. But it's something as simple as like on the Ukrainian deadlift, my feet feel really narrow, and the bar is hitting my legs, and you're like, well, what do you think you should do? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, your feet feel really narrow. Yeah, move your feet wider. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah. I mean, that keeps all of us in a job.
Yeah.
Don't give away all the secrets.
There was a lot of mistakes. I mean, like, it's really interesting coaching all day, like Friday and Saturday. I expect a lot of mistakes on Friday, you know, like simple stuff.
Yeah.
I expect to see people when the hands run out and they loop their hands underneath, they've got no fucking idea where they're grabbing that rope, you know.
Yeah.
But even the pro guys trying to loop their hands through that rope, what the fuck was going on? Like at that level, you think like you do arm over arm pull pretty frequently. You think you know how to like lock your arm in at least like relatively efficiently.
If you're an athlete, yes. But a lot of people, and this is where I make a very strong delineation between strongman athletes and strongman competitors.
Yeah, sure.
And even at the pro level, there's strongman competitors who are really, really strong.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, you run through, and some people like a Bobby Thompson, he's working hard to be more athletic, but up to date, he's been a competitor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just the athleticism, and this is like, you know, Saturday, the pros, the arm over arm, but like all day on Saturday with the competitive class, little mistakes or little things that you see that you're like, oh, that's such an easy thing to just know, right? Yeah. And it comes with experience, but it's also the meticulousness in like knowing the event or knowing, you know, the small things of the event. You know, like that's why Brian Shaw is like one of my favorites. You know, we watched him at the Arnold's and get his yoke height, right?
Yeah, he just walked out to Mason and gave him a piece of paper and he's like, that's my yoke height.
Yeah, right,
Mason's like, do you want to set your pins? And he's like, this is in inches.
Yeah.
Just set it to that.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He knows.
Yeah.
He knows
You know,
so well.
when you know everything so well, when you know your yoke height, when he adjusts his stones and just puts a little bit of tacky on, you watch someone who's meticulous who knows. If you watch Brian Shaw do an arm over arm pull, his hand just so gracefully slides in and through, right, and locks in straight away. And that's just one example. But there's so many things, like trying to pull the tire up a little bit, and many things over the weekend. But in general, there's a big difference, right?
Yeah, definitely. And even Fatty, he was doing the arm over arm. He ended up coming second, and he did really, really well. But he was wrapping his arm twice.
Yeah.
And afterwards, why'd you do that? It was clear that you could do it with one, no problem. And he goes, I don't know, I panicked.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. And it's as simple as that. Same thing with some of the other guys. Like, you can very easily, when you step up into a comp, it's sort of along the same lines as if you're going to go somewhere and you might not do well or whatever. If you step up in a comp and say you're competing against me, you can't look at me and go like, oh, wow.
You can't be deer in headlights.
You won Giants Live. Yeah. You've done this. It's like, no, we're here to win. Yeah. And like, it's not, you can't discredit someone and you go, like, they're strong dudes. Yeah. Very strong dudes. But you got to go like, I'm here to win. And I think it's easy to slip into that. I'm happy to be here. And if I come last, that's okay because I'm happy to be here. Yeah. And you're just talking yourself out of it.
Did you feel any of that at your first World's Strongest Man?
Hell no. Yeah. In fact, I was sitting with Colin and one of the referees the night before it started, and Colin goes, you know what? I said, what are you most excited for tomorrow, like for it kicking off? And he goes, honestly, I'm one of the things I'm most excited for is to see if you're real. I see if what you're actually posting is the real deal. Yeah. Okay, right. And he says, I think if you are, you've got a chance of getting to the stone off. Yeah. And he goes, let's say you come third. And I said, well, let's say I come second. He said, well, probably third. Like, and I said, no, let's say I come second. And anyway, he kind of talks me through how he thinks it's going to go. And then I look at him and go, I think I'm going to win the group. And thank God it's come off, or I'd look like such a twat. Yeah. And I think it's important that when I do stuff and when I predict stuff, it's not as though I think I'm infallible or other people suck. It's like, no, they're really, really good. But you could also critically analyze that group and go like, oh, it's a slow group. So I told him, I said, I think this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And he's like, oh, well, I guess we'll see. And but no, I had that attitude from the get-go. Yeah. Because in the end, it doesn't really matter. It's one of the things about strongman that's great is like, you could be lifting against Brian Shaw, but he's lifting the same weight. Like you're not head to head in any way. It's not jiu-jitsu where he knows techniques. You just get out there and get after it. So no, I was really lucky, and I've been like that in other sports, and I've been really nervous in other sports, but it just doesn't happen in strongman.
Have to believe to achieve first and foremost, right? Like you're never going to be world's strongest man unless you believe you can be world's strongest man, right? Or have the potential. Otherwise, what are you doing it for?
And we all have that on a small scale. Like every amateur has had a log on their chest before and gone, this isn't going up. Before they even attempt it. Yeah. And like it could get close. It's the same thing with dumbbell. Like you just have a weight and you go, this isn't it. And like you never go, this isn't it. And then like, oh wow, I did it. Nah, never. So yeah, it's a really tough psychology thing. But I'm lucky just to be that way. That sort of just is what it is. I mean, did you have that ever when you were competing?
Nah.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
I see somebody do something and I'm just like, well, if they can do it,
that's right.
Why can't I do it? Yeah. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that person's impossible to beat. And it's like, well, no, because someone's beaten them sometime or they've beaten someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like anything can be done.
Yeah. I think every comp I've gone to overseas, like I've probably gone in, I think I've always believed that I could win. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That like I have the potential to win. And like, my first OSG, I had no expectations. And the only time that I was like, fuck, was like a rock over there. And OSG's like, there was like 35 guys in my weight class, 105 kilos. And like, I was like, fuck, I'm tiny. Like, these guys are fucking
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That was like the first time where I had any doubt of like just a split second. And then like the first event goes off and like you do well and you're like, oh no, these guys are big. They're not strong.
Yeah.
They're not as strong.
I had that in Finland. Yeah. Guys would come in to use our scales and I'm like, oh, you're doing 105s. And they're like, no, 90s. And I'm like, sick. Cool. Yeah. I'm like this much shorter. Yeah. And then after a couple of events, I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't mean much.
Yeah. Do you know, I all the time I run into the same thing. Because I'm very small compared to the vast majority of competitors. Yeah. Every time I meet a new one, I have to like recalibrate and go, okay, I've seen what you can lift on Instagram, and it's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a thing though, right? Like now when I go overseas, and like I still think that I'm a small 105 in terms of, like I don't do giant weight cuts. I'm 104 at the moment.
Yeah.
I had food poisoning yesterday, so I'm 103 this morning. That was a good time. But like I would normally sit like 108, 110, right? Like not a big 105, because those guys make big cuts.
Yeah.
Now that I've done multiple international comps, and I see the guys come out and they're always fucking big.
Yeah.
I never discredit. I never go, oh, he's so big, he's going to be strong. I always go like, okay, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what he's got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It definitely changes the more you meet and the more you compete against those guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's then you just look to like Alexi.
Yeah.
He doesn't look impressive.
Yeah.
Ends up at like 135 by the end of the year or something.
Yeah, something like that. And it's not like a Pujanowski shredded to the bone 135. You're like, no, you could walk in the supermarket and look pretty normal, to be honest.
Like a big guy, but
yeah, big strong guy, but not the strongest in the world.
You still stand out, but like, I mean, you know, when Thor and stuff came to Arnold's that year, you know, he's walking through the crowd.
Yeah.
You can't miss that,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
You know, like that's a big guy.
Yeah.
200 kilos, or when he was doing that deadlift, he was like 200 kilos. It's a big human.
Yeah, the sport's going smaller though in the open weight class.
Yeah.
Definitely getting smaller.
Well, the 3 or 4 freaks that were just abnormally huge are on the way out.
Yeah, we're not going to produce 6'8" giants every.
The majority of World's Strongest Man guys were that 160 or teetering on 170.
But in
and
general,
then you had 4 that
the
were
composition
like
has changed too, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like if we look back at like World's Strongest Man, probably in that middle, you know, like when all of them were pretty big, there was there was a bigger, probably like bodybuilding, powerlifting phase.
Yeah.
And then there was sort of like that era where you had like Terry Holland's, Big Z, and they were all carrying a fair bit of weight.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And now it's kind of come back to like a more athletic build.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle, I think, at the moment.
You wonder, is it the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Like, do they tailor the competitions to get the best out of the best guys there? Or do the competitions go a certain way and the best guys tend to cream rise to the top? But I think it's a pretty rapid progression in the sport, because Thor and Eddie pulling 500, I pulled 475, 70 kilos lighter than them. And you're like, okay, if you could do that and you could be close on a big lift, then you could move way better. You're going to win the whole show.
Yeah.
Which is why I think strongman's not about being the strongest. It's about being strong enough.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yep. Because I think, say, prime Eddie, you give me and him 2 minutes on a 150 log, and I think he kicks my ass in the first 45 seconds, and I catch him by 2 minutes. So, you know, it's I think it's what the sport has to be. And I hope it gets that way, because it's also much more digestible that way.
Especially if you're on the pro circuit, competing more regular, wanting to do comps. Like, not all comps can be heavy.
Yeah.
Not all comps you're supposed to have, and we talked about this last week on like the 50, 30, 20 sort of thing.
Yeah.
But like if you were on the pro circuit and Arnold's is your heavy comp of the year, you can't do an Arnold's every 2 months.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
But you can do competitions every 2 months or every
you could do this one, you could do giants.
Yeah,
for sure.
100%.
There was a run of where just big, heavy lifts were popular. And that's all anyone wanted to see. Like deadlift champs overshadowed Europe's. No one cared about the yoke run, the farmers run, any of the other athletic stuff. Everybody just wanted to see the deadlift or the log.
Yeah.
And it's starting to get away from that, where every event is more exciting.
Yeah, and the challenging bit to that is it's a very particular person who could be the best log presser in the world. So when we talk about the sport growing as a whole, if the log press is getting the most attention, only the guys built like Andrea Thompson, Bobby Thompson, only people built like that, like you, but 170 kilos.
Yeah. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Those are the people who get inspired. So you inspired like 1,000 people, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where anyone could run a yoke. Like Brian runs a yoke well. I run a yoke well. And you're like, we're very different. Alexi runs a yoke well. He's small as well. Rob Kearney's great at yoke.
Yeah.
Thor was great at yoke. Yeah. Okay. Like,
and you put five people in a heat, and that's an exciting heat to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do that well at OSG.
Yeah.
That's a really fun comp to watch.
Yeah.
Whereas you watch log and you're just like, well, that guy's got it. That guy's probably secured second.
Yeah.
Though they're not close.
Yeah. Yeah. But it turns it into more of a sport and less of a freak show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it wants to be both.
Yeah, in a way.
Kind of has to be both.
For sure. And it's going to tend that way. But so NBA, put it this way, the slam dunk contest is not interesting anymore.
Sure.
Yeah, freak shows are becoming less exciting, but in a way, it's still a freak show. The normal game itself.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. NBA is a full, 100%. They're that good, right? That's exactly what I'm like. Yeah. I think that inherently, heavyweight strongman is a freak show.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the slam dunk competition is records.
Yeah, it's like records
and
like
the,
a show off,
and
a show
off,
right?
show.
But the sport is in itself,
which should
NBA
be at the front,
is a freak show, and it should be that way. Like the sport comes first and is a freak show in itself, and then I mean, like you look at the sport from a weight class perspective, it's still a freak show, but like it's not as visually a spectacle. Do you know what I mean? As like big guys, it's just your size. The whole profile thing, the way that's marketed.
People always want to see larger than life.
Yeah, it's larger than life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that will always be the best.
I think that's the reason that when it comes to selling out stadiums, it's always going to be us.
Yes.
When it comes to growing the sport, it's a lot of you guys.
Yes.
When you get out there on social media and like you like Lee being under 90, you're like, yeah, okay. I could be 88 kilos and be strong as hell.
Yeah, for sure.
But a lot of people go, 150 kilos. Like, it's a bit much. And it is a bit much. Like, I don't want to be this weight for that long. So
yeah.
And
also, if you're 5'8", you don't want to be 150 kilos.
Right. That'd be juicy. You're probably get a nice scooter to go along with that.
Be great at log and nothing else.
You might get a disability sticker too.
Might be all right.
You might get ideal parking. How have you gone juggling? So, we talked about you came over to Australia for your course and stuff like that, and then you went home and opened a clinic, right? You've also got a family life, you've got business, so your clinic, and now like training for competitions, plus doing this international circuit and being here, being away from home, being away from your partner. Like, how do you find
plus coaching
coaching
in the sport?
How have you found transition and juggling all those things?
It's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard, and things always fall by the wayside. And it's less of a case of trying to get everything done and more of a case of making sure the right things aren't getting done. And between all those things, it becomes really quick. Like, you got to find good people. And that's just the business side of it. So having someone to be able to run the clinic when I'm not there, having someone to be able to help out with the coaching business in the right way, where they're not doing the coaching, but they can help out with some of the administrative roles. And then really, like, the biggest thing for me is make hay while the sun shines. And right now, people listen to me, people pay attention to me. My views on stuff on Instagram are higher than the Stoltmans half the time. Okay, that means that now is the time. And so a lot has to be sacrificed personally, and it takes a really strong, stable partner to be able to do that. And
I imagine so.
You'll recognize that on the pro circuit, there's very few people who do really well who don't have a stable partner. And
true.
Like you go to a show and like you open up your DMs and it'll literally just be like, naked girl, I'm in the hotel. Do you want to meet up? And if I was single, you're like, yes. But it just adds a layer of purpose and focus. But the challenging bit is like, sorry, babe, I don't have time to really do anything. And, it sort of got to the stage where like our anniversary was a couple of days ago. It's on the 21st. And, I called her and I wished her, actually I had spoke to her for like when I just woke up, and I just woke up, I wasn't really thinking about it, and called her about 20 minutes. I was like, hey, I forgot happy anniversary and blah, blah. And it's got to the stage where like she's so happy that I've just remembered that. And she's like so thankful, really, really excited. But also like I don't want to be the piece of shit who's getting rewarded just for remembering an anniversary and giving a 2-second phone call. But it takes a partner who's like, our whole life could be centered around you for the next bit, and that's okay. And it actually hasn't even been a conversation. It's like, yes, it makes money. Yes, it provides a life for us. Yes, we could travel places, but it's we suck it up in the short term. So that's a bit that loses at the most, is like not being the partner that I would hope to be, and not being able to be there for my family the way I would hope to be. And thankfully, they mostly understand what it's all for. But in the same breath, like sometimes you have to have the reminder of like, I know that life is not ideal at the moment, but it's what it has to be, and it's working towards something greater. And my personality, I would work so hard to have a good life that I'd have a bad life. And being able to have people in my life that keep me in check is really useful. I would work 80-hour weeks to make sure that I could live a happy, comfortable life. And you're
forget to live.
Yeah, you're so unhappy and uncomfortable for your entire life. You know, what was that for? So, it's a big challenge, and then training on top of that. Where right now, I think if I'm weighing up all the things that I do, training has to be close to the top of the list, because that's the thing that's going to expand and blow up the fastest. Which then it's like takes a deep understanding of like what your long-term goals are. What are you in the sport for? Because no, I'm not going to the gym because winning the Arnold would be super neat. Like, but I don't really care if I win anything, to be honest. I just care that off the back of this, I can accomplish in the sport what I hope to accomplish, and I can provide a life for my family.
Yeah, people romanticize that pro scene in every sport. And go, oh, it'd be amazing if I never had to work and I could just train every day and travel around the world and this and that, and don't realize living out of a suitcase and not being in your own bed and not seeing your partner and your wife.
But you know what? There's
a lot of shit that comes to it.
There's probably 5 people in the world who could make a living off competing in sponsors and strongman. And I'm really lucky to be one of them. But and I could be, I could just travel around and live the romanticized life. But people who live that romanticized life, as soon as you're not the hot kid on the block,
you get one injury,
got a bad luck. You've got a bad life. So it's all about contingency plans, which then you have to fight yourself and say, okay, you can go look up. It's public information how much I've made in comps this year. It's good money. And then sponsors on top of that, that's good money in itself. I could live on either of those individually, but you have to battle yourself and go like, okay, you can't be comfortable. You can't rest on your laurels.
And it's got an end, and when all things are said and done, what are you left with afterwards? Do you know 100%. What I mean? Like, and if this is what I always think about, if you're so hell-bent on filling that bucket only, you live the lifestyle and you traveling and away from your partner for too long and all that sort of stuff, and then you're not the hot kid on the block anymore, and you're not the strongest anymore. And then what you're left with is a partner that you haven't seen for fucking 3 years. Your business is in fucking turmoil because you haven't been tending to it. If you haven't been tending to the garden that is the thing that grounds you, like the thing that's there after all is said and done, those are the people that were there beforehand, the business that was there beforehand and will be afterwards. If you don't do that, then you're not going to have anything when that sun starts to set. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's so important, but it's hard to juggle, right?
And it's scary because you actually don't know what it's worth sacrificing. This year would have been worth sacrificing, not my relationship with people, but anything else work-wise, if I knew what was on the back end of it. But I said this on the live stream. You guys were there. You weren't watching the live stream. On the live stream before one of the events, I popped on the mic because I need to ask Law something, coaching-wise. I thought that's the only way to do it. And they were asking me about it and the pressure about coming in as the favorite, and how's that weighing? The pressure, I don't feel the pressure on myself. If someone doesn't think I'm strong, I don't mind. Like if someone thinks I'm not a nice person, that bothers me a lot. But strong, not strong, okay, whatever. But the challenging bit would be, okay, Ash, I'm going to do a competition in Australia. I'm going to be away for 2 weeks. I'm going to be away for 2 weeks from the business. And by the way, I came 7th and I didn't make any money. And it's not as though it's not about the money really, but your priorities have to change.
There has to be a reason. Because
if I got invited to all the comps I got invited to this year, and I was mid-pack or bottom of the table, the prize money drops off exponentially, and attention drops off even faster. Like if you're not in that podium picture, no one even remembers you did the show.
If you don't compete for 12 months, people forget you exist.
100%.
So it's been very worthwhile only because I've done well.
The sacrifice has to be worth the squeeze, right?
But you don't know what the squeeze is until you sacrifice.
You take a guess on it.
Well, it comes back to believing.
Do
you know what I mean? Having that belief that and you can.
It's even little things along the way, and I've sort of accepted life is going to be like this for a few years. If I get a vacation the next few years, I'll be lucky.
Yeah.
Because Like I was out at an event in Miami, for example, and I hardly slept the whole time I was there just before I came here, because like I'm lying in bed and then I get a text and like, hey, I'm out with such and such. It would be like, they're a likely sponsor of mine in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. Big sponsor.
Okay.
Gotta go.
Yeah.
You don't know what that's worth.
Who's in Miami? Can we start rattling off brands and see if we can get a reaction?
And that's just on a micro scale. That's what happens time after time after time. And you just go opportunity here and here and here and here and here. And you don't know who listens to this podcast and goes like, you know what? Like, I want that guy in Australia next time. And so when Mason does the show the next time, if he goes, look, you didn't make as much money, but these people heard you on this podcast and they're willing to pay 20 grand for you to come out here and make sure that everything's sorted. And that, okay, well, fucking thank God I did that podcast.
Yeah, totally. Take every opportunity.
Yeah. And you never know.
This is probably the only bit with Ash that's hard because she's not a business mind at all. Like, she's brilliant. She's much smarter than I am in terms of books. She's a veterinarian. And like walking through and you're like, okay, I have my own podcast. Why do I take time out to do that podcast? It gets, 1,000 downloads a podcast. Like, it makes no money at all. Who cares? How do I explain, and how do I explain to myself even, you're dedicating this time to something that makes no money, and you're dedicating this much money to pay a videographer when that doesn't make a lot of money back. Because I don't know what value that adds to a sponsor that you've professionally shot content.
We do it every fortnight.
But we talk about that in business and coaching as well.
Yeah.
Like people asking a few questions at comp, people asking for help at comp, helping people out, and you're like, could be a potential client.
Even comp day
could
coaching.
Be this,
You don't get paid on comp day coaching.
I've seen you coach people that you don't even know. They're just doing something stupid and you run up and you're like, do this, this, and this. And then they come back and they're like, thank you so much. And 6 months later, they're tagging you and stuff.
Right. Yeah. And, like, you guys experience that on a coaching perspective where, like, a good one-on-one client, like, it's a couple $1,000s a year. Like, it's a great thing. But when you expand that to, like, you make the right connections, and I'm in a different category, but not long ago, I was in the same category where I needed to make the right connections to be invited to a comp. And okay, once you're in the giant circuit, you're sort of in. Yeah. And that's tens of thousands of dollars a year if you perform fairly well. Sponsors tens of thousands of dollars a year if you're performing well. And that's a big pressure. You know, that's and it's pressure when, like, same thing with business. Like, it's pressure and you're making decisions and you don't know if they're the right decisions until down the track after you make them.
Yeah. Well, as it grows, like, the bigger the gain, the bigger the loss.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, bigger risk, bigger reward.
Yeah. So. And the second biggest challenge, like, in terms of managing everything going on, is putting myself out there a lot is something I've done a lot. But not many people would know that that's not my nature in any way, shape, or form. Like, I'd much rather just do my own thing. Be quiet. That was my nature before I came to Australia, and that's the reason I came to Australia, is because I didn't know anyone here, and I thought, you know what, you got to get more comfortable with putting yourself out there. Sure. And the funny bit is, now I put myself out there so much, and I've come so far that now people are like, like, loves the attention.
Yeah.
Do this. You don't know the journey to.
Do you think that's one of the biggest challenges that you've had, going from being relatively unknown and amateur strongman to, like, world's strongest man profile on the circuit?
Yeah, a couple of things there. Like, I mean, the constant assessment is really challenging. On, like, I'll be assessed on how I behaved at comp, and then what I said in a YouTube video, and like someone will say, an hour and 20 minutes into the podcast, you said this. And I'm like, at a certain stage, like, we forget that this is here, we forget that these are here, and we're just talking. And if you had anyone on a mic for an hour and a half, or like a mic when you're out just hanging out with mates, like, you're gonna say something. It's kind of stupid.
Course. Takes us about 15 minutes.
It wouldn't take me long.
So parsing your words is tough, but within that, then you're parsing your words and you're trying to be careful. And I've had a very steep learning curve in, like, what opinions you can put out there and what you can't.
Yeah, sure.
And one of the biggest lessons is how not worth the time it is to explain an opinion that you believe to be correct, but, like, other people don't. Yeah. And you're like, I actually don't care if you believe that, so why do I spend any time talking about it? And then people who don't know you, something that really bothers me, people that don't know me and they've heard me on a bunch of things and they've seen my face, they've seen me on TV, whatever, they'll immediately act as though we know each other.
Sure.
And they'll come up and they'll touch me and they'll squeeze and this. Oh,
yeah.
And it's like, it feels really uncomfortable.
Sure.
But even worse is when people then talk about how much they like me, and you're like, you like this. You like what you see.
You like
right?
the projection that I'm putting out.
And that's what you put out.
It's 100% genuine. And I ask for feedback from people around me all the time. Like, am I coming across as I would privately?
Is this representative of actually who I am?
Yeah, and I want that to be the case. Yeah. But I mean, also, like, I'll have a horrendous day and I'm not going to, like, I'm not going to be here all bumming out and whatnot. And so you get into this funny situation where people who listen to the podcast, listen to YouTube, see you compete, they see... maybe not the best version because it's always authentic, but they certainly see a polished version of yourself. Almost like they know you from work alone.
I agree. Yeah.
But then you get into a funny situation where these people like you and they think higher of you. You're up on this pedestal more so than the people who know you the most. And you start drawing this the negative correlation between how well people know you and how much they like you. And I struggle with that a lot. On like, Ashley knows me as a normal dude. Like she knows that I have like these bad tendencies and these great tendencies, and
she knows your good days and your bad days.
Yeah,
she knows your good factors and your bad factors.
That's right.
And she still loves you for it, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. But there's other people who like genuinely believe me to be perfect.
Yeah.
And then you have to fight yourself. Like, well, why is it that the better someone gets to know me, the worse I seem to be to them?
Yeah.
And it's a really funny, like difficult mental health thing. So that's why I don't particularly like when people have positive things to say about my character who don't know me, if they don't know me well, right?
Yeah,
and
makes sense.
Yeah, and that's it bleeds into like personal life as well, where there's people who I know fairly well but don't communicate with all the time, and they'll start making assumptions and they'll go, oh, like you're a bit arrogant. Like you're putting stuff out there all the time. You need to be seen by a lot of people, particularly people who say our parents' age and older, who don't understand an online business, who assume that you just divert all this time
doing it because you want to get the attention.
Just like you love the spotlight and the this. And no, like I grab the mic at every show and talk because I have really, really bad anxiety talking to crowds. Until you do it and do it and do it and do it. So you just battle that, and then. You're assessed by people. They love you and they don't know you, or they know you and you seem to change, and you just
please everyone,
and you're just and you don't. It's a catch-22 because you don't have a choice. The alternative is don't put yourself out there so much. And that outcome is that you don't accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Or you fall into the trap of just following the people that say good things about you.
There's two things. You start to believe,
and you start believing what they think of you, and
you start to believe like the Hooper. Versus like I'm Mitch, like I'm Mitch. You start to believe that you're that character or that profile that people are seeing.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, or the opposite is like then suddenly people start to know you and you start to not actually, when you do start to open up to people, you stop opening up to the actual person that you are authentically because they've got this polished version, and you're starting to feel that whenever someone actually learns who you are, there's an inverse relationship. So you stop just showing people who you actually are and start to play the Mitch that is authentic to yourself, but the polished version. But you start being the polished person in real life as opposed to on that social media outlets. You know what I mean? That makes it really hard to be actually authentically you potentially as well. So it's a tough battle. That's a hard one to navigate.
Do you just ignore a lot of comments?
No,
and
I
read them all. Skim past them?
I read them all. Just
take them with a grain of salt.
I think it's important to.
Yeah.
Because there's something called the jelly bean study that I love. Have you guys heard of it before?
No.
So
I love jelly beans.
They're phenomenal. So if we've got a jar of jelly beans sitting on this stool, and I ask you like how many jelly beans are in the jar, on average you're going to be pretty bad at guessing.
Yeah.
And if I ask both of you and we take the average, we're going to get closer. And if we take everyone in this gym, we're going to get closer. And the more people you ask, the closer you seem to get to the correct answer. And it's sort of the power of the crowd. So I use the same approach when I'm reading comments. And I go, if you're at a state where you're relatively well-liked, which in my audience, in my comments, at the moment, that's how it is, right? And I've managed that pretty well. But that doesn't mean that that's always who you are and always how people would interpret you. Sure. And so if the comments start getting flooded with like, you seem arrogant or, you're not coming across, or you're being a bit rude, you're being a bit harsh, then like the worst thing you could do is just ignore and go like, everyone's a hater.
Yeah.
On average, people are right.
Yeah, sure.
And so I use that as a really good sort of check in, because especially when it's online, like, yes, there's people will say anything online, like it's super harsh, but if everyone's saying harsh things, like, you sort of deserve it.
And
then it also doesn't mean it's true. It just means that's how you're portraying yourself too.
Correct.
Which is it's not a personal
how you're
attack.
coming off, right?
Yeah, it's how you're putting it out there.
Yeah, and that's when it comes to things like personal development. And one of the big things personally I want to get out of the sport is things like orating better. So I've gone on a lot of podcasts and I listen back to every single one to think about, how was my inflection? How was my pauses between words? Did I say, did I forget what I was talking about? Did I go on a tangent that didn't make sense?
Sure.
Because then that's how you're presenting yourself to everyone else in the world.
Yes.
And who else can go on podcasts all the time and then listen back and go, okay, that's how I sound. And that's, no one can.
It's the only way you get better.
100%.
You go watch your lifts, you see what you did wrong.
Exactly right. Could you imagine you're not good at deadlifts and you go like, no, I can't watch.
Can't watch. Everyone says you deadlift like crap and you're like, haters.
Yeah.
Fuck the haters. Don't care.
I'll just keep rounding my back.
280 is awesome.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
So how long do you think you'll be, talking about that and talking about orating, talking, and you've talked about contingency plans and stuff like that? Because obviously it's a career, and we've seen people pave the pathway for this too now in strongman, being a successful post-strongman quite well and building a profile, which we can see that's the way things are heading. You're a smart businessman. How do you see strongman for you over the next few years? What do you think that the journey will continue to look like?
Personally, I think I want to keep branching out into different areas. I've started into the CrossFit world with the sponsorship with Tier, and I want to bring strength to more areas than just strongman.
Yep.
I think our ceiling as professional strongman is much, much higher than it used to be, but much, much lower than every other sport.
Sure.
Yeah,
so
it's a big thing our sport needs.
Yeah.
Is to get from different other sports and get more people involved.
Yeah, and so I want to just expand that. And one of the things that brings me the most happiness and fulfillment within the strength world is building the communities that got me into the sport in the first place, particularly for people who don't have them there themselves. So I don't know of any other coach who takes all of their online clients and facilitates platforms in different groups for them to communicate with each other.
Sure.
And they can now have that community. And it's funny, in Australia, I've heard that my coaching team, it's the cult. And no, it's a group of friends. And the fact that I have facilitated that to an extent it means the world to me, because now their adherence, their health, it's going to be improved. So continuing to create those communities, and my real goals in the sport are not related to winning it all, which is why when you guys say you've said you're going to win World's Strongest Man before, I don't think I've been that definitive ever, and I actually don't really care.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So if you ask me, you win World's Strongest Man and you have 200,000 followers, or you win nothing ever again and you have 1.5 million, I'm going to take 1.5 million.
Sure.
Yeah. Not because I need that many people watching me, but because then you have more eyeballs, more reach, more impact, more ability to actually make a difference in the world.
More impact is a good way to put it, I think.
Yeah. So strongman is just my proxy to impact the world more. And, I had the goal up until about 2-3 months ago. My entire goal was I just want to provide more for my kids than was provided to me. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot. Silver spoon, definition of silver spoon.
Okay.
But my mom sacrificed a lot for us to be able to have that. I just didn't know that.
Yeah.
We would go over to Europe. I spent every Christmas in Florida. I wanted
not bad.
I wanted for nothing. We'd be in my grandpa's boat in the Bahamas. It was unreal. Yeah. And actually part of why I like strength sports so much is because anyone could get into it. Anyone, come beat me. All you need to do is afford a gym membership.
That's why I like it too.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't matter where you start from or how much money you have.
Even the memberships and stuff like that. It's everyone pays the same.
Yeah.
Everyone comes through the door. We got one membership type.
Yeah.
You come in and respect's given if you're strong, and respect in the community is given if you show up and help out. It doesn't matter if you earn $1 million a year or $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
If you're a strong guy, strong girl, or not the strongest, but a real big community giver, then the respect's here, and you're the person when you walk through the door. It doesn't matter what you are out there.
Yeah, and you actually flip that on your head, and the people who are really strong and not that respectful. There's one particular strongman that's coming up right now in Australia who's that way.
Sure.
I don't understand how they could be accepted in this community.
Yeah.
Regardless of how strong you are.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought a bit. I was talking about impact in the sport.
Future goals.
Future goals. Strongman future goals.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So about 3 months ago, my goal was to give more to my kids than was given to me, right?
Yeah.
And I've changed my Instagram bio. And that now says, by the time I'm done, the world won't be the same.
Yep.
And I think for how much I've done over the past 6 months, if my goal is simply give more to my kids than was given to me, you're short-arming that by so far.
Yeah.
And being able to use this platform to be able to do something greater, to build communities, to inspire people. And someone like Arnold has changed the world. Every guy in and around our age who's in the gym is in the gym because of Arnold.
Yeah.
And to me, it's much more to do with like people regularly exercising and getting positive health outcomes from that because of him. Yeah. And I don't care about, to be honest, I don't care that it's strongman that's done it.
Yeah.
If it was bodybuilding that did it, I'd be the exact same thing, or CrossFit or whatever.
Inspiring people to move, be healthier,
100%,
move better.
And so that's a way in which I could help to change the world, and that's really my goal.
Yeah.
And so in Strongman, my goal is to use whatever competitions, platform, podcast, YouTube, build that audience and be able to have that ability to impact people. And then you know what? If my ambition changes in the future, then the audience is still there.
Yeah.
You can still have that influence. And it sort of sounds like a dictator kind of thing. But to me, if you can just leave the world in a better place as you see it in your eyes than when you got here, what more could you really ask for?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, what you're talking about is exactly what you're saying earlier, just tending to your garden, your followers, the people that you can impact. And the broader your impact can be, the greater the garden that you can tend to is, and the better that you can make that part of your world. You can only affect or impact the part of the world that you can. Do you know what I mean? Yep. But if you can do what you can do with the part of the world that you have influence over and make that better, and everyone else did that with the parts of the world that they could influence, doesn't matter if it's 150 followers or 1 million or 1.5 million followers, then the world gets to be a better place, right? If everyone has that same outlook.
100%.
Yeah, but then you're just more than an athlete. So you're not just thinking athlete, comps, wins. I just want to be the athlete.
Yeah, I'm not.
Then there's the personality. There's everything else that you do.
It means
there's
there's
who
a
you help
purpose.
with.
You know, that means there's a greater purpose to why we want to do this. It means there's a greater purpose to why you want to win or do well in competitions and continue to be on those circuits. It's because there's a purpose or a driver behind that that's greater than the individual need for success or competition wins.
It's a lot of extra good motivation to
huge.
be good at your sport too.
It's and I genuinely think on that broad scale, even when I'm at competitions, even when I'm doing things. And you know, I think one of the biggest challenges in our generation is, like, are you guys religious?
No, not religious,
really, no.
spiritual, indoctrinized religion.
Yeah. So very, very few people proportionally, lower than ever in history, are people of our age participating in religion. Yeah. And I'm not either. I don't really subscribe to it. And more people in our generation are not having kids.
Yes.
And so if you don't believe in religion and you don't have kids, you're going to die one day. And for what? And the only answer is, well, you can impact the people around you. Sure. Yeah. And for me, like, my life has to be about my kids that are coming very soon. She's not pregnant.
Okay.
Despite
I was going, is that an exclusive?
Yeah.
Because I've heard you talk about it, that you thought about it, right?
Man, I can't wait.
Yeah.
We're getting married in September and, like, literally starting. And I want heaps.
Yeah.
I want heaps and heaps. But for that reason,
kids.
Right?
You might change after you have one.
But but people genuinely say that, and like, oh, it's so hard. And I can't think of something hard that I would want to do more.
Well, more worth it. Yeah, and I totally agree, man. It is an absolute blessing.
Yeah, and so that's in the end, that's what you have, and then you have the people that you impact along the way. Mm-hmm. And okay, there's two ways you can impact people in terms of scope, and one is how intensely you help a person, and the other is how broadly you can help people. And for me personally, like, if I could impact as many people as possible on a small scale and change the trajectory of their life by 0.5% or 1%, that's more fulfilling to me deeply than having one person change from A to B that's miles apart.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's really my greater purpose. And, you know, it's something that it's a blessing and a curse always having your mind spinning about things like this. But constantly, I'm evaluating why are you doing this and what's it all for? And
that's a big internal driver, though.
Yeah,
like
it's a big internal driver.
It's not external motivation. It's not after likes and everything else or competition wins.
Yeah, but it goes both ways quick.
Yeah.
It motivates you really quick, but if things aren't on the right track, it demotivates you.
Yeah, for sure.
And fortunately and unfortunately, my brain is you change the world or you've lost. You know what I mean?
That's the weight of the world on your shoulders.
You do everything or nothing.
Like you got big shoulders, you know.
So that's something that conceptually I understand is a thinking error, and like it's a bit much. But it's just how I'm wired, and you just reach and reach and reach. And I think that's why people who win World's Strongest Man. I heard Colin Bryce say there hasn't been a person who won World's Strongest Man that didn't have it ruin them.
Yeah.
Because if you have that goal and you accomplish that goal,
what's next?
What's next?
Whole life.
You know what? Like someone like I don't know, someone like Eddie, right? He is financially set, appears to be financially set.
Yeah.
He accomplishes his goal of winning World's Strongest Man. He never has to work a day in his life again. I don't think, if he doesn't want to.
Sure.
What's there? Like he's got his son, of course. But as people, I think we always need these big problems, these big things to chase.
Yeah.
And I'm more concerned about accomplishing my goals too quickly than I am about not accomplishing them at all.
Yeah.
I want to be on my deathbed thinking like, I could impact more people.
Well, the beauty is there's never a never ending goal there, right? Like you put something that has finality in it, like win World's Strongest Man.
Yeah.
And then there's this emptiness, there's this void that happens when you finally achieve that, right?
Yeah.
But when you have a goal that is intangible to finish, like I just want to have more impact, that's not finite.
Yeah, and you know, I see it like you're at the base of a mountain that never ends, and you're looking at these pathways, and you one pathway is win World's Strongest Man. One pathway is have a viral video. One pathway is go on a super popular podcast.
Yeah.
Whatever. And you could go up so many different ways, but so long as like you're heading up that hill, then you're doing fine. And that's why, okay, if I win World's Strongest Man, great, that's a pathway. Mm-hmm. But it's simply a proxy to get to a place that you want to be.
Sure.
It's not the place itself.
The place.
Because like, you're going to end up, like you get on the top of the mountain and like it's all downhill from there. And like the amount that the analogy lines up is infinite. Like, okay, the air is thin on the top of the mountain. You can't stay there forever.
Yeah.
You got to head downhill.
Yeah.
It's much tougher to go downhill than it is uphill.
Yeah.
It's also very important to have something set past the next thing.
Always.
Whatever it is.
Always.
I do that with people with comps.
Yep.
Because they're so fixated on a big comp, and I'm like, it's not the last comp.
Yeah.
There's another one and another one. And like, they don't have to be close together, but just like have a new target, have something else important beyond this. Because otherwise, once it's done, you sit down and go, now what?
Yeah.
And then you get depressed.
You can continue the analogy. It's almost like you walk up a path, and the path for someone at the amateur level could be, I want to win this comp. This comp. And it's like, okay, you go up, and then either you win, you get up onto that platform, or you lose and you take the slide back down. You did all that work for that. And even if you get on that next sort of platform, like you haven't thought about like, oh, there's still that infinite hill.
Yeah.
And once you come to realize, and this is one of the biggest things for me that I just need to keep repeating to myself, is that cliche that the climb is what's enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I've done enough things where like the bodybuilding coming last actually didn't matter to me at all, because I just know I went through it.
Yeah.
I hated it, but I love that I went through it. I love that I could put myself through that.
Yeah.
And so right now, I will look around, I will smile, like crowds are watching me lift weights. Like, one, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, what a fucking dream.
But two, like this could be the last time. And the walkout is the enjoyable bit.
Yeah.
Okay, you win, podium, cool. But I've been on now 7 international podiums in a row.
Yeah.
After about half of them, you got your trophy. You go, pretty much everywhere's closed because it's Europe. Mm-hmm. You go to Macca's, you grab like a quick chicken wrap.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky enough to have some with you at the comp, awesome. Usually I do. There's been a few times I don't. Okay, you get your trophy, you go, you sit in your hotel room, you're by yourself.
Yeah.
All right. And then like it's up on the mantle. It's featured in the YouTube videos now.
Yeah.
Who gives a
That's
shit?
it. Yeah.
100%. It's so shallow.
Everyone that's successful tends to not look back so much, and they just keep looking forward.
Do you know what? It's a funny thing you say that, because I've come back to Australia, and I haven't been back to Sydney yet to see all the people that I want to see.
Yeah.
I can't wait to do that. And I flew into Sydney, and I was going to Brisbane. That's where I went first. And I got on the public transit, and I spent a lot of time on public transit when I was in Sydney. Obviously, it's how you get around. And I think a lot of people would have nostalgia. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I'm back, blah, blah.
Yep.
And like, it really bums me out.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're going back.
Yeah.
Like, you've already done
Yeah,
this.
I've moved interstate a lot and a lot of things like that. And once I've set and gone at something, I rarely sort of look back. I'm just like, next thing, next thing, next thing.
Yeah, even, and it's funny, like, I'm the same way with old friends and old houses and other old places I've lived. I don't want to go back to my uni town.
Yeah.
I can't really tell you why.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how positive the experience is, like, going back just feels like literally going
It's
back.
an old chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the new chapter.
It can be a great chapter, and it can do wonderful things for you, but once it's done, it's done. It's on to the next one.
Yeah. Probably to an era, though.
There's nothing more fruitful to be had.
You forget to look back and have good memories and enjoy things because you're so focused on what you haven't done or what's next.
Yeah.
So,
but then it gets back to like you need that. That's the enjoyment. And I think it's almost a microcosm of when you've accomplished what you want to accomplish. Like, there's nothing happy left there.
Yeah.
And so in Australia, I basically did what I wanted to do and more.
Yeah.
And it actually had a fantastic sort of final chapter. I told you guys I came to Australia. One of the things was putting myself out there more, building stronger connections with people. When I left Canada, I threw myself a going away party, and I was able to invite 6 people.
yeah.
And 1 person came.
Yeah, sick.
You're like, it's so sick.
Love
Big
that.
night.
But you're like, okay, this is a really good reflection of where you're at in your life. Then when I left Australia, I did the same thing, and we had to like, we couldn't invite everyone we wanted to invite. We had 85 people there. You're like, okay, and like that's the closing of the chapter. Like you literally accomplish what you want to accomplish with that time in your life, and then like you leave, and then you come back. It's like, of course I want people here and I want to hang out.
Yeah,
like, of course. But
yeah.
It's really funny where you're like, how good does this feel? Like, I've kind of accomplished what I want to here.
Yeah.
And probably something I need to work through on, like, it's okay. It's okay to go back and enjoy. Like even trophies.
Just for funsies.
Like, I'm like, trophies. I don't want my trophies displayed. Like, I've done that. I've already done that. It's not what kind of wanker am I with my trophies at?
Yeah. I think someone said once to me, because I never did, and like comp t-shirts and stuff, and like my business partner was like, you know what? Like, you might not care, you might have done it, but other people care. And other people like to see it, and other people are interested. And now our trophies are sort of like in that office. And so often I see people like checking them out, like having a look and stuff, fascinated. And I go down to other people's gyms, and when I was traveling in Australia, there was this motocross guy, and I was checking out his shirts and his trophies and stuff, and I was like, oh shit. Yeah, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. See, this is where I differ from both of you, where I sucked at sports growing up. I wasn't just good at anything, so I didn't get any trophies until I was an adult. So I'm like, this is cool. I accomplished something now.
Fuck yeah.
I'm not going to carry it everywhere with me, but I'm like, it's nice to know that I'm not
But I've got
terrible.
one in my backpack at all times, just in case.
Just one of these shorts.
People showing their kids and their like families and stuff. They pull out like the
Trophy photos.
Yeah, trophy photos. All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps us up. Thanks for coming along, man. Much appreciate you coming down and being our very first guest. Big part of what we wanted to do was make sure that if people wanted to come on the podcast, they were happy to come and sit down versus doing the Zoom thing and stuff.
Yeah, way better.
Yeah, we kind of refuse to do this.
We appreciate that, and appreciate you visiting our gym and have fun training, do your thing.
How could I not?
Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your time in Australia and don't don't have too bad of a time in Sydney going back and past.
No, I'll get stuck into the people. Yeah, the people are always there.
The people matters.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you heaps, man. Much appreciated.
Cheers.
Awesome.
That's another episode of The Strongman Say. Well, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, concerns, or just want to hit up Mr. Mitchell Hooper, your Instagram or social media channels are...
Mitch Hooper, everywhere.
There you go, the hoop. Yeah. One last question before we close up. Do you like or dislike the boo thing that has come out of the Giants Live thing?
The moo thing?
Yeah, so because obviously at ASI, I had a few people like looking around being like, why the fuck's he getting booed? Right? Yeah.
No, I love it. Yeah, no, I'm into it. And tie it back to those big goals. Why? Because say I perform poorly at a comp, but everyone is like moosing.
Yeah.
Then everyone's gonna be like, who's that guy?
Yeah,
what's that about?
Yeah.
And so it accomplishes the goal.
Yeah, cool.
But did you know that how that started?
Yeah, people were saying moves at like a Giants Live, and everyone thought they were booing or something.
Yeah, but do you know what? Do you know why it blew up?
No.
Right. So this gets back to like when I compete, I'm not in my own head about things, and it's sort of the exact same as training day. And so it was in Cardiff, and it's never been so loud, right? In terms of like so many people were doing it. And so I'm like, I'm going to milk this. And Europeans, they don't do sarcasm. It's I don't know if you've ever heard.
Do they do humor, to be fair?
A little bit.
Very dry humor.
If you hear like a British person say, oh, this person's hilarious, you can basically count on it that they're not.
Yeah.
And so I got interviewed after I won the front hold. And I said, guys, like, look, I'm trying my best out here. I'm part of the Commonwealth too. Like, we're on the same team. Could you stop booing me, please?
I didn't know that, but that's very good.
Yeah. So then, like, my Instagram was blowing up, and people were coming up to me after going, like, wow, we weren't booing you. Like, okay, you really didn't get the joke. And to date, people still think that, like, they'll still remind me, like, oh, they're not booing you.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? The good thing now is I won't know.
It's a thing, yeah.
I won't know.
It's all the same.
Start booing me.
It's all the same.
It's a cheer to me.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you very much, man, again. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
It's